The Mishnah on Tesvav on the base. What is that? It was a small one here yesterday. Oh yeah, you want a regular Hebrew? So down over there, the blue ones. One of them is ones that say Nazir Saitan on. Now you get to see if your learning is really working. That's Vavon base. Do we thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day? Because of our learning, we should have the base of Migdash. Mishnah says, Hayamevi Pili Shel Cheres. 15b. Yeah. We bring a cup. Pili is a cup. Apparently in Greek it's a cup. A cup of earthenware cup, a clay cup. And they would put into it a half a lug of water from the kir. Kir is the wash basin in the temple. What do they say about the word pili? Does he have a comment on the language there? Okay. He doesn't add anything. But, okay. Yeah, we just started the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says that there was not a half a lug, but there was only a quarter of a lug. So Rabbi Yehuda cuts the size of the water down in half. He cuts it in half. It says, now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're actually not going to have the same amount of scripture on the parchment. And so therefore, he also, just like he doesn't have as much ink that needs to be erased, he also doesn't have as much water. We'll see later. Nichnas laheichal. The Kayan would enter into the heichal. Heichal is the chamber in the menorahs. Sounds like it goes mamish inside. Upanali Yamina, he makes it right. Makam hayasham ama al ama. And there was a place over there on the floor that was 1 amma, 1 cubit by a cubit. The tablet shel shayash, there was a tablet of marble. The tabase kavoba, and there was a ring attached to that marble. The floor they had a real floor in the temple. It wasn't like in the Mishkan where they had a dirt floor. They had a real stone marble floor. So if you wanted to get dirt, you had to lift up a stone. So this stone had a ring in it. I guess it means when he would want to lift it up. And he takes dirt from underneath it. And he puts it that it's visible on top of the water. From the dirt that is on the floor of the Mishkan, he takes and he puts it on the water. It doesn't say on, it says to, but we're understanding that it doesn't get mixed in, that he just puts it on top of the water. You with me? Okay. What is it? He puts it into, but we're saying that it's not just into it. It doesn't need to be mixed into. It could be floating on the top. After a little bit, first it floats on top. Tana started in a brisa pili shel cheres chadasha de Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says that the vessel has to be brand new. Well, my time with the Rabbi Shmuel, what's the reason for Rabbi Shmuel to say, we're going to have Rabbi Shmuel a few times today. What's the reason that Rabbi Shmuel says that it needs to be brand new? So Gomer Kli Mimitzaira. We learned from the leper. Malahalan cheres chadasha, Afkan cheres chadasha. Just like by the leper, he also has to have earthenware vessel, a clay vessel. And just like over there, it needs to be new. So to over here, we have a precedent. Over here, it also needs to be new. Well, How do you know by the Mitzayra, by the leper, in his purification process, that he also needs an earthenware, brand new vessel? Because the pasuk says, that one of the birds was slaughtered over this earthenware vessel on living water. Now, just like the living water meant that you took the water directly from a spring. It means no work was done with this water. This wasn't water that was used. You had it in a pail. You used it for this and for that. This is not. We're not talking about water like that. We're talking about that you took water that came right out of a spring. The Arizal's mikveh. Also, the vessel that you have the water in also has to be brand new, fresh, just made. The Gemara challenges. Okay, so where are we holding? By the leper, we know that the water needs to be brand new. Water needs to be brand new. We extend to that the vessel also needs to be brand new. And if the vessel needs to be brand new by the Mitzayra, so we take it over to the Saita, that when the woman, her water, the water and the dirt and that she's going to erase the scroll, that has to be brand new. It has to be a brand new vessel. How do we get this? From the left. Mar says, maybe just like over there, the water needed to be brand new, straight from the spring. Also over here, maybe it needs to be brand new, straight from the spring. Well, the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel Hachinami. You're right. Rabbi Shmuel, that's the one that's saying this, that the vessel needs to be brand new. He actually holds that the water needs to be brand new. Why? Where do we have this? Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says, make kiyar. When the Mishnah says, make kiyar, Rabbi Shmuel, Aimer, Mei Mayan. He says, no. He says that it needs to be spring water.
Where does it talk about the function?
That's going to be later. I guess this Rabbi Yochanan is not talking about the Saita. It's talking about in general. What is the water of the kiyar? That Rabbi Shmuel says that it's a spring. There was a spring there where they would get the water from. Some say no, that it was just collected water. It wasn't a spring.
We learned that keel was filled up by lowering some piece of it lower down to get the water.
Yeah, they would lower it down overnight, so the water that was in it would not need to be.
That's where it got the water.
Yeah, but what was that well in the ground? Was that a collection of water and that was collected in the ground, or was that a spring? Spring. If it was a spring, so you're right. This was water that was straight from a spring.
Spring is running
fresh
water. Yeah.
As opposed to a collection of water. May mikvah would be what it's called if it's just collected. Opposed to a mayan, which is a spring. Okay, so Rabbi Shmuel holds that the water needs to be brand new. The vessel needs to be brand new. However, how did we get to this? Because we're comparing it to the leper. It says, there is to ask. We can ask on this comparison. When it comes to the leper, the purification process requires cedar wood, hyssop, and the scarlet thread. And by the Saito, you don't have that. And if you're doing a full comparison, then we should also have these other ingredients in the Saita potion. So Amar Rabba, Amar Krabba Klicheres. Rabba says, the pasuk says in the earthenware vessel, Keli Sha'amarti Lach Kvar. Talking about the vessel that I mentioned before. So we're really only learning just the vessel. It's not just a comparison, everything that applies to the Mitzayra applies. It's because the term that they used, when it says Bikli Cheres, in an earthenware vessel, you see, if it would have said Bakli Cheres, in the earthenware vessel, that would have been even better. But I don't think it says that. It says Bikli Cheres, right? So, but it means the vessel that you know about. Amar Rava, that was the last answer we had was from Rama. Rava says, the sages said that the vessel does not need to be brand new. However, it can't be darkened through cooking. The pots would just turn black over time. The fire would, they cooked on fire. It wasn't on like electric stovetop, so the pots would turn black. So, but you can't have, even though it doesn't need to be new, but it can't be turned black. But if the pot has turned, this cup that the water was in was turned black, then it's possible. My timer. What's the reason? Why are you saying that it's no good? It says Dumya Demayim. It has to be similar to the water. Ma Mayim Shleinishtanu, just like the water can't have been changed from one state to another. How do we know that? I'm not sure. I guess it means you have to take it straight from the kiyar. Afkeli Shleinishtana, also the vessel can't have changed. Tosfos here is a very strong question. He says, where are we getting that the vessel can't be burnt, can't be turned black from the, where are you getting that from? Because we're comparing it to the water. And the water in the kiyar has to be clear water. So he says, why? How do you know that the water needs to be clear? What is it? It's a mikveh. If there's a mikveh, is not always so clear. Could be there's ink in the mikveh or something. Or, there's dirt that changes color. Just because the mikveh changes color doesn't mean that it's possible. So if that's the case, where are you getting that if the water needs to be clear, so too the vessel needs to be clean? Where are you getting that from? The water doesn't need to be clear in the mikveh, and maybe the vessel doesn't need to be clean. So Tosfos says that you're right, it's just a derabanan. This comparison is only rabbinic. It's not a biblical comparison. Okay. Boy, Rava has a question. If the vessel was ruined because, according to this, which now we're assuming it's all rabbinic law, that the vessel was darkened, let's say, let's say you put it back into the kiln and you refired it. So now does it become brand new? It gets white. Do we say that no, this vessel used to be good, but now it was rejected? You can't just bring it back by just throwing it back into the furnace. Or maybe not. Maybe we say that no, it's brand new again. Right? They kashered it. See, this could be totally brand new. I mean, this is funny. Tosfos is asking, we have this question in other places. Why are you asking it again here? This is a different story, it seems like, because here you have a brand new vessel when you put it back into the kiln. Because even if you would have ground it up and made it into dirt, into clay again, added the water and shaped it and all of this and put it back in, you would have, it's basically brand new when you put it back in the kiln.
That's if you ground it up.
Oh, you're saying only if you grind it up.
Yeah, like if it's a kash.
And making it hot. So you're saying for kashering that would work because it kills all the flavors that are in it. But no, the reason why you can't kasher earthenware is because we're afraid that you're not going to get it hot enough. But if you actually put it back into the kiln, then that you could do that. Yeah, if you had earthenware, you had china that kon kasher. Say, well, bring it to that place where they have the kiln over there, and that would work. See, on the kivshan does work. It's just we're afraid that if you're going to just do a regular libun, you're afraid you're going to crack it. You're not going to really do it hot enough. Okay, you're not going to do it well. If you actually put it in it, yeah, we tried this once. We had this china with flowers on it. brought it to a place. I don't know if they actually did it or if they told us. Maybe I think they took a sample. They said, you want to see, we want it to kasher. They put it into the thing and the color smudged or something. I don't remember if they told us it's going to smudge, it won't keep the color, or if they actually did a sample for us. But,
Well, there's some of those plants that once you cook it, they change colors.
could be something like that.
I had to do it with one of those classes in high school.
Okay. So this is a question. I don't give the hada, or maybe we say it comes back. So Tashima, come and listen, Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Lazar. You have Rabbi Lazar. I have on the side it's Rabbi Eliezer, and in my Gemara it also says Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar Reimer Eitzeres Ve'ezer V'Shnit Telas Shehifshel Bem Kupase LaAcherav Psulin. Let's say someone took the cedar, the hyssop, and this thread, and they used it to carry their basket from behind them. So now they obviously, if you're going to use this, you're going to tie it and twist it and this. So it turns out that it's not its original form now because they messed it up. They twisted it. So we say that if it gets twisted and it gets bent, then it becomes puzzle. Now over there it says, but when you take it off, you can straighten it out. But over there you can take it off from the basket that you used it for and then straighten out the thread, and it's all clean. And it's all perfectly new. Does Hasam the ikla for klufe? No, it doesn't over there. That because it was rubbing against the bucket, it wore itself out. It rubbed off part of it, so it did change. You can't bring a proof from there that when you can straighten out perfectly, that therefore it should be good, and really it's not. That's not. You can't prove that because over there it got ruined as well when you used it on the bucket. Okay. Just to peel. Super peel. Yeah. No. It's just saying that if you use the basket, if you use the thread and the grass that was supposed to be for the Mitzvahs, for the lepers purification process, you used it for something else. You ruined it. You ruined that thread, so you can't use it again. We thought maybe just because you twisted it, and then when you twist it back, it should be fine. He said, no, you actually ruined it because when you put it on, you attached it to the bucket. Or a basket. Nichnas lehechel upanel yamina. He enters into the heichel, the chamber, and he turns to the right, and he's going to take the dirt. My time. Why does he turn to the right? Whenever you come to a crossroad, you should always turn to the right. He said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Well, a right-hand turn, no?
Yeah.
Turn right everything got across.
Yeah, you're going to be in a circle, right? Right.
What?
If you keep turning right, you're going to come back to where you started.
Go around the block. Obviously means if you're not sure which way to go.
Right.
Your waist to go left.
Right. He said with Rabbi Yonason Eichitz was known as a genius, even as a kid. So the king of wherever it was, Russia, I don't know, whatever country it was, wanted to speak to him. He heard that he's a genius, so he sends for him. So when he shows up, so he tells him, how did he get here? So he said, I asked people how to come. So he says, let's say two people told you differently. He says, we have a rule that you follow the majority. So he says, oh, good. I was hoping you would say that because the majority of the world is Christian, so you should become Christian. So he said, when I come tomorrow, says, I don't care how many people are going to tell me how to come, but I already know how to come, so it doesn't matter. So I only follow the majority when I have a question. I don't have any question. Anyway, what to do? Be converted right away.
But you can tell us the story of Rabbi Shapiro from the beach. He used to always say about that the question was, which gate did the king go into? Did he go like the long way, short way, long way? There were two gates, and then the answer was he
Made
went
his
into
own.
neither. And then because he says, because it quotes in the Tehillim,
Right.
Poretz get there,
Right.
so he just broke the
Right.
wall where he was.
That story they say with was that with Rashi and one of the Crusaders? No, that was a different story.
I know,
That was
but I
a different
remember
story.
him
That's a
always
different
telling that story.
Rashi and one of the Crusaders, he told them, he visited Rashi. Rashi, according to this legend, Rashi told him he's only going to come back with 3 people or 2 people or something. And as he's entering the city, he had 1 extra, and a rock fell off the gate. And then there's another story with the wall. Melech Peretz, I think that's the Gemara, maybe. Okay. Makim Hayasham Ama Fulu. Over there was an area that was 1 cubit by a cubit. Tanarabanan. Mina Afar Shayia. From the dirt that will be, you're supposed to take from the dirt that will be on the floor of the Mishkan. Yachal Yasakin min bachutz v'yachnes. Maybe you should have the dirt prepared outside and bring it into the Mishkan. It says no, it's supposed to be the dirt from the floor of the Mishkan.
But in the base of Mikdash.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. In the base of English, they had a
So they
stone
had a
floor.
trapdoor.
So they had
A little
Thing with a hook.
tile.
right, a tile that you could lift up. Maybe they're supposed to dig away with a cardam, what do they translate? A hatchet of some sort. Do they have a picture of a cardam? What is it called?
I would think like a pick.
A
A
spade.
pick. Yeah, a pick, a spade. Talmud Leimer Shiyah, that's all there already. Haketzad. How does that work? So it says Yesham Havi. If there's dirt over there, you see we're dealing here with how to get the dirt. If there's dirt already there, you're supposed to put dirt into the water. If there's dirt already there, so then you bring from the dirt. Ein Sham. If you don't have dirt there, then Tain Sham, then you have to put dirt there. And then once it's there, then you can use the dirt that was put there. Dirt from the floor. If the import dirt, the bag of dirt, it's the potting soil. You get it in Home Depot.
Every crew.
Oh yeah, or like
From Israel.
those little bag of dirt. Yeah,
Somebody's making.
I don't know.
No, the Goyim make that.
Tanyidach, there's another brisa. It says Minafar Shiyir v'Goymer, from the dirt that will be on the floor of the Mishkan, right? Malamed Shayim Misakin Machnes Mi Bachutz Machnes. This teaches that they would fix it outside and they would bring it in. Does this mean that you have to put it on the floor, or you could just bring it from outside? I assume that you have to put it on the floor. I'm not sure. The Karka Mishkan.
The coin is head off for.
1 second. We're not dealing with ash. We're dealing with dirt.
What's up?
Offers dirt.
I
Afer is ash. You're gonna get. We're gonna come up to ash. There's gonna be a Gemara soon about ash. If ash is good. Now it says Bekarka Mishkan. It says from the floor of the Mishkan. We're gonna have 2 opinions here. They're very confusing. One is going to be the opinion of Isi ben Yehuda. The other one's going to be the opinion of Isi ben Menachem. It goes like this. When it says the floor of the Mishkan, Isi ben Yehuda Imer Lavi Karka Shiloi Naiva given a Beis Elamim. Now Rashi takes out the words Shiloi Naiva given and he just leaves Beis Elamim. When it says on the floor of the Mishkan, Isi ben Yehuda tells me it's coming to include also even the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, because floor of the base of Mikdash had a real floor. It had a stone floor. It wasn't a dirt floor like in the Mishkan. So Isi ben Yehuda is saying that that's good enough. Now, Rashi rejects saying that it's coming to include Shiloh. Because he says, Shiloh, I don't need to include anything because Mishkan, Shiloh is called the Mishkan. It was called Mishkan Shiloh. So that you don't need. See, when they came into the land, so they set up the Mishkan in Shiloh. And then they had it in Noivin and Givon, in between the Beis Hamikdash, in between Shiloh and the Beis Hamikdash, they had it in Noiv and Givon. Now, he says that, Rashi says that he rejects saying that they could do the site over there as well. He says there was no site in Noiv and Givon. You weren't able to do the site over there. You were only able to bring donation sacrifice. You weren't to do any obligations in that in those years where it was, I forget how many years it was, 52 or something like that. So according to Rashi, it's only the Beis Elamim.
What's Rashi's?
He says that based on the Gemara in Megillah and the Gemara in Bachim, that says the heter, you were in those you weren't allowed to bring in those places when we had that temporary Mishkan, you weren't allowed to bring any obligation offerings. They weren't considered.
No carbon copies.
No. No chayvas yachid, no private obligation offering, only public obligation offerings were brought there. They would have to wait. They had to wait until Tesis asks on Rashi. Okay. So whatever the case is, Isi ben Yehuda says that when it says Karka Mishkan, it's coming to include the Beis Hamikdash as well, possibly the other places as well. Isi ben Menachem, he says that's not necessary. Let's say someone becomes Tameh. He's not allowed to enter into the Mishkan. But let's say he does. So it doesn't matter if he enters into the Mishkan or the Noiv and Givon or in Shiloh or in the Beis Hamikdash. It's all the same thing. So when it comes to Tumakala, when it comes to a light impurity, that means something that came onto the person becomes tummy, is not supposed to enter. We say that there's no difference between the Mishkan and the Mikdash and all of that. So Betuma Seishish, Chamura, like Kolshkin, when it comes to Betuma Seishish, for sure there should be no difference. And you should say the impurity of a married woman that commits adultery, for sure there should be, if a light tuma, which means a person becomes tummy, because he had an emission or something, or he touched something, so there you can't enter in either way. So now when we talk about such a strict law, for sure the same rule should apply. What's the same rule? That you take the dirt from the floor and you do the saita.
What does a Sota do if she's impure?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, you'd probably have to wait for her to enter into the Temple Mount. She'd probably have to use the mikveh before.
Is that the case? If someone's a Nazir, they're not talking.
No. If they are, then it's problematic. They have to wait 7 days and that do that whole thing. Learn Masechtas Nazir. So in Cain, if that's the case, so according to Isi ben Menachem, Mishkan, why does it have to say from the floor of the Mishkan? We assume that it's the same thing applies also to the Beis Hamikdash. It says that he can't take dirt from his basket. He has to take dirt from the floor of the Mishkan. So it means you could take from his basket, put it on the floor, and then use it from there. So what we said before, that you can take dirt from the floor, that's talking about Isi ben Menachem. That you take dirt, put it on the floor, and then you can use that. That was Isi ben Menachem's view. Isi ben Yehuda said that it was coming to tell us that you can do the same ritual, the same procedures in the temple. What do you have over there? What's in your notes? Is that something interesting? What is it?
I know.
Oh, he's talking about the Shiloh, the primary communal offerings brought and even given. Since the meal offering of the Sota cannot be brought there, it was not used for the Sota ritual at all. However, according to Taisvus, even given should be included, as Isi ben Yehuda might hold that the Sota ritual could be performed there. See also Meiri. Yeah, very interesting. It comes up in Megillah. It's up in Megillah. You have the discussion. What's the difference? This Mishkan and that Mishkan. Okay. Ibailu. Umar has a question.
Oh, Megillah talks about the different.
Right. Well, we learned, what was in there? I don't remember. What do you refer
Over there, we had a discussion about the difference between the Mishkan and the other altars. If you had
Yeah, like Bama.
the Bama.
Oh, okay.
But the different Shkanim.
Yeah, those are
like we
called
say,
those are
there's
called
one
Bama
Shiloh, no,
Gedalah.
Gedol, and Gimel.
Those are called Bama Gedalah. Big Bama.
Right.
Okay, Bailo, Ain Sham Afar, Maushit and Afer. If you don't have dirt, are you allowed to use ash?
This Araya that the Kohanim used to go outside for smoke. Yes.
It's all pavement. So can you, instead of walking 20 feet, can you just burn a piece of paper and say, okay, now we have ash, we can use this instead?
Didn't they clean up the issues each morning from the?
Yeah. And they have the ash there. Aliba de Beishamai Laiti Bailach, the Amri Lemetino Efer Shikari offer. There's a discussion regarding Kisei Adam. This is in Masechtas Deya, at the beginning of Masechtas Deya. But shechting on Yom Tov, you have to have dirt that's prepared to do Kisei Adam if you shech the bird. Right? You have to cover the blood. So Beishamai held that you can't use ash. You need dirt, not ash. So Kiti Bailach Aliba de Beis Hillel. Our question is according to Beis Hillel, the Kamri Matzino Efer Shikari offer. That by Kisei Adam, when by covering the blood of a slaughtered bird, you're allowed to use ash according to Beis Hillel. So are you allowed to use ash also for the Saita? Even though it's called dirt, but over here it says you need to have dirt from the floor. Or maybe the dirt from the floor, don't get so specific about that, because when it says dirt from the floor of the Mishkan, that was coming to teach me what Isi ben Yehuda says, or what Isi ben Menachem says, that which floor are you allowed to do, that you can do it in, besides for the Mishkan, you can also do the base of Migdash. Not to tell me that it can't be ash. It's coming to teach me other things, Isi ben Yehuda's things, or Isi ben Menachem, which says you can bring dirt from outside and put it on the floor, and then it becomes dirt from the Mishkan. So we have a question here, and you can't answer it so quickly by just quoting to me a verse. Tashema. So come and listen. Dam Rabbi Yechanan Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yechanan says the name of Rabbi Shmuel. Shleisha Mekaymes Halacha Ikeves Mikra. How does your commentary translate Ikeves? There's three places where the halacha supersedes the pasuk. That means the tradition has more strength than the actual text. The Torah says this is number one. Ba'afar says that when you cover the blood, when you slaughter a bird or a wild animal, you have to cover the blood. So it's not by a regular domestic animal. You don't have to cover the blood. I think it's only by a bird or a wild animal. Am I correct? I think that's how it works.
You give a wild animal as a carbon?
Not as a carbon. I'm talking about just to slaughter it because you want it to eat.
I think all kosher animals are domestic.
Not deer. Buffalo.
It's tricky to shut.
Tricky to catch them.
Yeah, that's
Once you got them, So, the offer, the halacha is b'chol davar that it doesn't need to be offer. You can actually use other things. What is other things? Anything that plants could grow in. That means like a brick, that's ground up, that's that's crumbled. You could use other things. It doesn't have to be dirt straight from the floor. You can use other things.
Does it have to be organic? Because brick is not organic.
Should be organic. Well,
Ceramic,
okay, yeah, it doesn't have to be organic as in
like decayed wood.
like decayed wood, but
That's usually what you see.
uh-huh.
I never saw a plant growing in brick unless there was dirt left in it.
Now, when it crumbles, then apparently you could use that in planting. There's minerals in it.
What?
You take a brick and crumble it up, with a hammer, and then plant something.
You're saying there's no dirt
Well,
in it?
no, the old it doesn't have to be dirt from the ground. It could be even a brick that was
Like
turned in powdered. It was old. It's mud basically, isn't it mud?
Oh, a mud brick?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a,
Take a gold bar, brush it up, so it becomes golden powder, and use it to plant.
Torah Amra, another example. Torah Amra, you're saying that it's that. What do I need this to say that the halacha tells this to me? Because if it's anyways dirt. Torah Amra bitar v'halacha b'chol davar says that the nazir is not allowed to shave his head with the razor. Turns out he's not allowed to shave his head not just with the razor. He's not allowed to shave his head with anything. Torah Amra. Torah Amra Sefer. I was at a Lubavitch Sheva Brachas, where the sister married a Litvish guy. So,
But they had a Lubavitch Sheva.
there was the family was Lubavitch, but the girl married a Litvish.
Jex.
Anyway, they made Gramen, Gramen, they sing. So in the Gramen, this Lubavitcher brother-in-law is singing about the chassan. He's saying that we don't need a panim chadashis here because you shaved your beard after something after. Okay. So Torah Amra Sefer, when it comes to writing a get, it says it's supposed to be written in a scroll. Halacha b'chol davar, but really you could write the get on anything as long as it's not attached to the ground. You can take those what's those big leaves they used to use as postcards, sea grapes. Write it on the sea grape. You can write a get on anything as long as it's not attached. Once it's birch bark, right? The white. We had a tree in Rhode Island, birch peel it up. Yeah, we didn't really do anything with it, but it would peel. The imisa, and if you really don't need dirt for the saita, you can use other things as well. Lechshav nami hai, then you should be allowed to use, if you're allowed to use ash, then why does Rabbi Shmuel say that there's 3 things? There's really 4 things. It must be that you're not allowed to use ash. Right? Because he gave us a list. There's only 3 things that you're allowed to do, even though the Torah says specifically, and we have it gets extended or it gets enlarged by the tradition. Gemara says Tana b'shayir. Okay, I know he gave a number, but he left out other things as well. So he was just giving a list of 3. My shayir, the high shayir. What else did he leave out that he's leaving this one out? You're not going to just leave out one thing. That would be insulting to this one. So you have to leave out more. It says, no, well, we were only listing 3 out of many. So what else was the other, what you're calling many? So Shir Mitzayra leaves out the Mitzayra. What do we know by the Mitzayra? The Tani we have a brisa. It says, now the Mitzayra has to shave his head twice. beginning of the process of purification, and then 7 days later at the end of the process of purification. He has to shave his head again. So at the second time, it says that he should shave all the hair, all his hair. That's klal, that's a general rule. Then it says, it goes to details. Es reisha vesukane veskabiseno. His head, his beard, and his eyebrows. Prat, those are all details. Veskal sari galeach, all his hair he should shave, because they're a klal. That goes back to the generalization. Klal prat klal. How does it work when you have a general, specific, and general? You have to done elikana prat. So what we do is we limit all that whole generalization to similar to the detail. Ma prat mefurish makom kinesar b'nira. Just like the details are all areas where hair is collected. That means area is thick in one spot. It's not just hair like on the fingers or hair on the arms where there's no thick growth of hair. It's just hair spread out. Talking about kinesar, where there's a thick area of hair. B'nira, and also it has to be visible. So afkol makom kinesar b'nira. So therefore, the Metzora has to shave all hair that's collected and visible. Ma Rabbi. So what is that including? Rabbi Sarah Raglayim. Now this is a little confusing. It really means the private area. It says the legs. It says the legs. You actually don't have to shave the legs because the legs is not collected. It means, but it says Raglayim. It's a euphemistic way of saying the private area. My miyat, and what is excluding? Miyat to base shechi. It's excluding the armpits or the kulagufa and the rest of the body, because the armpits is not visible unless he lifts up his arms. But it's not visible, so that doesn't have to be shaved. The hilchasa. So that is what the Torah tells us, based on the klal of prophet klal, based on the way of studying the Torah. The hilchasa, but the halacha is megaleach kedalas. He shaves like a pumpkin. The dalas is a squash. It's perfectly squeaky. Everything is shaved off. The Tanan, what is it? Squeaky clean, right? The Tanan, as was taught in the Mishnah, Bole lahakav as a Metzora mavitar kol besari. If he comes to cut the hair of Metzora, he has to cut everything. Tani seifa, and it says b'yemashvim megalchay teglacha shnia kedeglacha sushain. Just like the first haircut, it says he has to cut all his hair. That you don't have those details. Second haircut has to be just like the first one. See, even the second haircut, where you have those details, you have to cut everything, even though the Torah says you don't have to cut everything. So we have another example of the tradition superseding the text of the Torah. And so therefore, even though the Torah says that you have to put dirt into the water, or onto the water, so the tradition would tell me that you don't really need that. You could also use ash. Maybe this is a good answer. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, "Kika chashiv halacha keves mikra or mikra ha keves midrabanani." Metzora has nothing to do with this. This wasn't the text. This was what the rabbis derived based on the 13 principles that they derived this from the text. You're telling me that we have a tradition that supersedes what the rabbis derived? That's a totally different category. That doesn't go into the category of the three things that as we wanted to say, that as long as we have one more thing, one more item that the tradition supersedes the text, then we could say that the same thing would apply to the dirt, that you can also use ash. But this is not one more item, because this is rabbinic. It's not really rabbinic. It's a drasha, which the rabbis use to derive from the text. I think we call it a deraisa. I don't think we call it a rabbinic. When you have a drasha, you call it rabbinic law? No, it's called a deraisa. I think the Rambam writes that clearly.
Which is why it's so hard to understand this whole work. Rabbi Yochanan said in the reign of Rabbi
Ishmael.
Because there are many, many examples like this.
Well,
because these examples are examples like writing a get on a piece of paper, in which what's stated is the most common way of performing the act, but other ways of performing it are included there. Dozens of examples like this. I think in the Torah.
Get it. If it's written for something specific, written for itself, how can you say that the
Right, right. This is more than a minute. This is a tradition. Yeah.
I understand like how
Right.
What we say about the Mashiach Suda was traditional minhag. We made Rabbi made the distinction, but I don't remember that. As opposed to a plain Fabrengen. He said, this is a Mashiach Suda is a. Last night he said, well, you were busy
Yeah.
talking with that guy who was with
Rub it in, rub it in.
us.
Okay.
Is anyone else here listening? Yeah, to Malab, what did he say? And this minhag.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's what you threw me off now. What the tradition?
Yeah. When I say tradition, I mean Allah Sinai is a very strong tradition, not just the tradition. You know, not the tradition from tradition.
We have 4 minutes.
Rav Papa Amar Kika Chashav Alacha Keves Veikeres Ha Keves Meisefesi. Rav Papa says when we said that the tradition supersedes, that's talking about that it uproots it. But what you're telling me here is it's not uprooting, it's just adding on extra here that he's supposed to cut. So that doesn't count. Ravashi Amar Hamas Nisa Mani. Ravashi says this whole question doesn't fit at all anyway. Says you're telling me that you have another source, you have another situation. This is not even Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Hamas Nisimani, Rabbi Yishmaeli, the Darish Klali Prati. You were telling me from Rabbi Yishmael that he darshans Klali Prati, that he would hold that you don't have to shave all the hair. You only have to, and when he says Kedalas mani, but who says they have to shave the hair like a pumpkin? That's Rabbi Akiva, the Darsh Rebbe Miuti. That's Rabbi Akiva that learns everything different. There's two approaches to studying the Torah. If you have a generalization, do you say that it's an inclusion and an exclusion, or you do it as a generalization and a specific? You're going to come out at the end with a very different result. Because the Tanya, we have a brayso that says, on the seventh day you should shave all his hair. That's an inclusion. That's an exclusion. And all his hair you should shave riba back to an inclusion. How does it work if you have an inclusion, exclusion, and inclusion? Riba, miyat, riba, kol, you included everything. My riba, what do you include? Riba the kulagufa. You include the whole body. My miyat, so what are you excluding? You're only excluding one thing, which is the hair inside the nose. That's the only hair that does not need to be shaved, but the other hair does need to be. So when you say you have to shave him like a pumpkin, that was talking about Rabbi Akiva's view. That wasn't even Rabbi Yishmael's view. So you tried to tell me that the halacha uproots what it was taught in the text. You're quoting to me another opinion that Rabbi Yishmael never even held up. Okay, let's leave it over here. Should I leave it here? No. My Havi Allah. Let me get to the thing. What is the conclusion? What the conclusion here? Tashma Damar Avuna Bar Ashi Amarav. Avuna Bar Ashi says name Rav. Ein Shama for maybe Rikvais Yerek. Rikvuvis Yerek Umakadish. You take the decomposing vegetables from all the cases that they have after Pesach that we didn't finish. So you take the decomposing vegetables, and the Gemara says Rikvuvis Yerek. Who the haviyafar, that becomes dirt. Afer le haviyafar, but the ash is not dirt. I skipped Balagi. Rashi takes it out.
Wow.
Okay. About.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Great job. Great job.
Okay.
Excellent job.
Bravo.